Hi, Tony.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Loud and clear. Tony, you're looking good. Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
I can hear you, Tony.
Same as you are. Thank you for the opportunity to have this webinar. I really appreciate your time, going by all that you have to do at this time. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I actually made a mistake. I actually thought it was 1 hour earlier, so I was so worried. And I'm glad I'm glad you corrected me, because I think it must be something to do with my Google time settings, which gave me the wrong time.
Actually, I was the one that made the error. It's not from you. I actually did 11 a.m. West African time, thinking it was 12 noon. So the mistake was actually from me and not from you. Apologies. I have to go correct it.
Okay. Okay, I'm glad it's worked out well. So, Tony, how many people have signed up?
So at the moment, people are still signing up. So I just wanted us to sign in early so we can check our mics. So at the moment, we have about 7 participants joining. So it's not yet time. So I reckon that more people will join in as we go along. I'm trying to. Let me check with Alex. He hasn't signed in yet.
Is it only Alex and me?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, Alex, just joining. So we'll kick off in the next 1 minute.
Okay.
Hello, Alex. Hello, Alex, can you hear me?
Hello, sorry. How are you?
I'm great. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Loud and clear. Yes. Sorry for not for a minute. I was trying to make sure I was up on time.
Okay. Thank you for joining. I'm trying to make sure that people are still joining, so just give 2 minutes leeway time for them to join. I'm just admitting more people as they come in.
Tony, what you forgot was this is Nigeria, so at 12 o'clock you say 11:30.
Absolutely.
Yes. Unfortunately, we'll not go by the Nigerian time because we have other people from other time zones. So in the next 3 minutes of kickoff, they can join and and follow through with the webinar. So kick off by 12.
That's fine. We're all coming on. Okay.
Can you share screen from your side for your presentation? Or you want me to share it from my side? Mr. Alex?
Yes, I will do that.
Okay.
I'll do that.
Okay. Just checking that you can do it from your side.
Well, it's good to test these things like they say, right?
Greetings, Tony. We've not met personally, but I'm very interested in the topic you're discussing. My name is Maurizio. I run Twiga Aero from Mauritius and Bangkok.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Mauricio.
Nice
Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
Fantastic. Okay. Okay, I think we can start now.
We're waiting for Cindy to join. Now she's here. We can start soon.
Yes, yes. So we are kicking off now. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to yet another webinar. My name is Tony Okachuku, CEO Aviators Africa and convener Aviation Leadership CEO Forum, a platform that gets CEOs across the aviation value chain in Africa to come together to discuss about topical issues in the aviation industry. Without further ado, I would like to introduce my speakers, or call it panelists for today. So I have Alex Muba, President of Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association of Nigeria. And I also have Sanjeev Gadia, who's the CEO forgive me. So your company just escaped my head. Please, can you help me out?
It happens. I'm the CEO of Astral Aviation.
Astral Aviation. I'm so sorry. It just escaped my mind for 1 minute. Okay, so I'll go straight to Sanjeev. I'll also give you, because we have little time, I mean, we have one hour between us to deliver this webinar. I'll just go straight to you, and if you just introduce yourself a little bit more. I know you've been in the air cargo industry for about 20 years, but I give you the opportunity to do some introduction, and we'll kick off with the first question, which is, you've been in the air cargo business for 20 years. How has it been in the industry? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to your event. And it's a pleasure to meet friends and also fellow colleagues in the aviation industry. I am the CEO of Astral Aviation, which is a company I started 20 years ago. with a very humble beginning to develop an air cargo network within Africa. 20 years ago, things are very different in the air cargo industry. And when I look back at the last 20 years, it brings back many good memories and very few bad memories. But the good memories that I can say very with a lot of conviction is the opportunities. Some amazing things in East Africa. We've done some amazing things in West Africa. We set up our hub in Nairobi. Initially to look at the humanitarian sector, because wherever we looked around Kenya, there were a lot of hotspots, and we set up Astral just to look at the humanitarian operations. And a few years later, we decided to develop into a commercial airline with a scheduled network. So our focus initially was to fly within East Africa, but we also extended our operations into the United Kingdom, which is where we fly our two Boeing 747s, which sometimes you might have seen in some of the airports in West Africa, including Lagos and Accra. So we currently have a fleet of 14 cargo aircrafts. We fly to 15 scheduled destinations within Africa, and we have two hubs. Our hub is in Nairobi at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and our second hub is in Belgium in a very small city called Liège. So between these two hubs, we fly to approximately 22 destinations within Africa. And we have currently a fleet of two Boeing 747-400s with a plan to expand it further. So when I look back 20 years, it's been a great journey. I took a lot of the issue of regulatory environment, the lack of liberalization within Africa. The other thing which also disturbed us is the high cost of taxes. The high cost of doing business in Africa has also been a very big challenge. And the other thing which I believe is very important is the lack of cooperation. We just don't like to cooperate. We like to have this notion that this market is only for us and we are the best. But what we believe is there's an important need for also with global airlines, so that when you have a situation like what we are going through right now, when you have a strategy which is that of cooperation, you can actually be able to do a lot more. So Tony, this is just a reflection. I'd be quite happy to take it on.
Fantastic. So compared to passenger airlines, what are the challenges faced by cargo operation in Africa? I mean, from your perspective, operating air cargo, what do you think are the challenges?
Well, to be very honest, the passenger business is very different from cargo. Passenger business has got two-way load factors. Passenger flights have actually got 4 or 5. They have different segments of revenue. And in the case of cargo, you only have one source of revenue, which is the cargo that you carry. And many occasions, we actually have to fly empty. So I'll just give you a good example, Tony. When we're flying from Lagos to Nairobi, to fly from Nairobi to Euros, the sector Lagos-Nairobi, which is a 5-hour sector, is an empty ferry flight. We also do similar flights from Luanda to Nairobi, from Accra to Nairobi. So we have many situations when we do not have, unlike the passenger friends who have passengers moving in both directions, unfortunately in the cargo industry, you only have cargo flying in one direction. So you have to make sure that your revenue can actually be able to sustain an operation like, for example, a sector Lagos-Nairobi, which is empty, can cost you $100,000. And yet you don't have any revenue on that sector. So the cargo dynamics are very different. The other thing I also notice about cargo is that you never fly in the same direction. For example, we will never do Nairobi, London, Nairobi. We will always do Nairobi, London with perishables, and then from London, we'll fly into our hub in Liège, fly to Lagos, fly to Luanda, come back to Nairobi. So that is something which is very different. But I must say that I really like the cargo business. There's no way I have any plans to go into the passenger business because cargo never complains. And if it complains, you just lock it up. So I really like the flexibility. I like what we are doing. I like the impact we have on various sectors in Africa, whether it's the export sector for perishables, the oil and gas sector, the mining sector, the e-commerce sector. I think we make a big impact.
Fantastic. So I'll just Alex has the presentation to make, so I'll ask you one more question before we can go to his presentation. Yesterday, the keys for African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat was just handed in Ghana. So it's a great thing that something is coming up from that end. So what do you think the impact of African Continental Free Trade Area will have on air cargo when it's ratified?
First of all, I'm a very big believer of the African Continent Free Trade Area. I think that's the best thing that's happened to Africa in a long time. And why I like that is because, Tony, here is a fact. Only 18% of Africans trade with each other. The remaining portion of the cargo, or the remaining portion of trade, is between Africa and Europe, China, United States. And I think it's about time that Africa starts doing business with each other. And the African Union has got a target that by 2028, they would like to increase that to 50%. So we're still in a situation where Nigeria still is not buying enough from Kenya. Kenya is not buying enough from South Africa. And this is a very big challenge, because when you look at a lot of trade, for some reason, Africans feel that buying goods from each other is inferior. If it's beef, they like to buy it from Brazil. If it is mobile phones, they like to buy it from China. If it is chickens, they like to buy it from Jordan. I mean, it just doesn't make sense when you've got so many resources. The whole world is buying from Africa, but yet Africa is not trading with each other. And I really like this whole concept of the free trade area. I'd like to congratulate all the leaders who have signed up for it. And the most amazing thing is that this will have a very positive benefit to the air cargo sector, because we are going to fly to more destinations in Africa. We will not fly from Nairobi to Dubai to go to Lagos. We will actually have more intra-African connectivity. And the future of Africa is to trade more with each other. And the future of the aviation business in Africa is greater intra-African connectivity. That is what we need.
Thank you very much, Sanjeev, for the input so far. So I'll go to Alex. Alex, you're the president of Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association of Nigeria, but that's just one part of you. You're a multi-sectorial person in the aviation sector, covering different areas. So I'll allow you to do some introductions of yourself before you do the presentation.
Okay, thank you for the invite, Tony. I'm always happy to work with you on a number of projects in the sector across many areas. I happen to wear the hat of an investment banker who's also into aviation, a pilot, and somebody that just basically loves airplanes. So that's where I'm coming from. And I think that one of the unfair questions you asked Sanjeev was, what are the problems? You didn't say, what is the benefit? And he touched on that very briefly, which is that cargo doesn't complain. The other thing is cargo doesn't also have to leave on time. And so with passenger aviation, the passengers always say, the flights are late, and we know the history in this part of the world. It used to be 4 hours on some airlines, and that's not really a problem for cargo, but then you catch up with wind. So I will get into my presentation, but Sanjeev touched on a lot of things, which is that we don't trade enough with each other. And basically, I'm asked to speak about trade within Nigeria and how airlines need to pivot in the COVID era. So I will go right into my presentation. If you let me have a second to share, which is always the challenge, but we'll get over that here. 1 second. So I'll be talking essentially about the air cargo area in Nigeria. And so first slide essentially is to introduce myself, exactly what I thought. It's working, but it's not scrolling. Okay, so I basically say I am an aviator. I start by asking the basic question. In this COVID era, are we in a new era which has brought about new opportunities, or are we essentially waking up to the same opportunities? And I say this from the passenger side of the business, which I've worked in most of my aviation career, other than the fact that I also ran a cargo airline that Associated, which was a mix of both cargo and passenger operations, as well as charter. And so I have, in my brief aviation career, have run a number of airlines Associated, like I described. I also took over the national carrier of the Republic of Benin called West Air, which was basically a cargo aviation. And we're about to start a regional airline, and decided to put a hold on that. Currently, I am the president of the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association of Nigeria. And the question that follows through is, so what is that? We already have the National Association of Airline Pilots and Engineers. That's a Nigerian association. Whereas the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association is a global association that has 89 chapters in different countries of the world, and where focuses more on the general aviation sector, which is a rather weak sector here in Nigeria, and in particular in Africa, but in particular in Nigeria. We don't talk much about general aviation. The focus is usually a discussion about airlines and whether we do passenger or cargo. So, talking about Nigeria, which is the focus of my discussion here, Nigeria did about 19.4 million tons of cargo in 2018, World Bank figures. And one of the challenges always is with the validity of these numbers. And that's a decline, that's a pattern that's been coming down since the 80s, which picked up essentially in 2012. Somebody has their microphone unmuted. It would help if you mute the microphone. So basically, in order to give that some scope so that people understand, the 2018 numbers for Nigeria represents 194,747 loads or 970,737 loads. Okay? And so when you look at the Nigerian figure and compare it to the rest of the world, you find that amazingly that Rwanda and Nigeria have the same average number of air freight as opposed to, say, France or the US that you can see at the very top of the scale. Okay, so that's just to give you an idea. Okay, and the opportunities for air freight are in minerals, flowers, fruit, vegetables, seafood, meat, and print. Typically in Nigeria, we find that most of the cargo is carried in the belly of the passenger aircraft. So we don't have as much of a specialized industry as, say, Sanjeev does in Kenya. And in Kenya, you do see more of the general use, which is applied in his business to fruits, vegetables, and seafood, and the rest of it. And for this part of the world, West Africa, air freight is attractive to landlocked countries for the use of high-value goods and the transportation of perishables. So the next thing I talk about, what is the challenge? And these challenges for us define why we don't have so much of a specialized air freight industry as opposed to carrying cargo in the belly of aircraft. So basically, we talk about perishables being a key element, but we find that our airports are not actually set up for the export of perishables. So while we talk about, oh, there are opportunities for air freight, you have to ask yourself, well, how many airports can actually support the air freight operations? We also find that we complain also that our exports are not generally acceptable, and that's because we find that a lot of air freight gets damaged. So in terms of their potential for export, we deal with a lot of exports damaged goods. We have very poor storage or no storage, and that applies whether it's by air or by road. We have very limited number of cold rooms at the airports. The cycle, the days required from the time of the deal to the loading at the port is considerable because due to lack of these facilities, a large number of airports, we find that it's only limited to maybe Abuja and Lagos. So, and the goods are not produced in any of these markets. They're produced in the northern part of the country, have to be transported, or southwest, and transported to these airports for exports. And so given that there are too many players with reduced efficiency and increased costs for everybody, okay? You also have cumbersome documentation, and Sanjay talked about that. The documentation process is very interesting. There are too many officials, you know, everybody is lined up with their hands out, trying to tap into this very limited opportunity. Transaction costs obviously are higher based on these factors. The cost of aircraft and maintenance is high. Regulation is cumbersome. And then you have the unfriendly faces waiting for you, which obviously ties into the low cost of volumes, which has high costs. We have, of course, high charges. Cargo security is an issue. I always share the story of a flight that I operated out of Lagos, in which all the goods on the flight were not the goods paid for by my customer, but the goods chosen to be loaded by my handler. And of course, we knew how to handle such a situation. There's poor funding in the sector. There's lack of knowledge in modern agricultural techniques that would help to increase the quality of the products. Information adequacy is a challenge. There's a lack of political will on the political side to pursue the growth of this sector for essential agricultural including policies and promotion. The production costs are high, the supply costs are high, and there are high government charges which are increasing. And so these are the challenges with air freight within Nigeria and generally within West Africa. The next slide is to show you what the customer's expectations are versus what our capacities are. And so on your left is the famous organic banana available for $1.99 a pound at a supermarket as opposed to our locally available bananas. And then, of course, the picture of the tomatoes we expect to see at the grocery store versus the shapes of the tomatoes we produce for exports. The good old mango. Somehow in the West, they seem to get all the mangoes to look the same, while we deal with varying colors and varying sizes. So basically, when we talk about export, we talk about the first place we go. So I went to their website and I made the folder on logistics, but the focus is on sea exports. And they talk about 70,000 kilograms in 2017. The numbers from the NEPC obviously are off. They talk about available services and they talk about the products, and the products are not in sync with air freight. So the picture it paints is that we don't have an air freight market or air freight products. And so my observation is that there were no trade statistics on their website. They define the market as sea-oriented, and their list of export products were at a disconnect with the potential for air freight opportunities. And then I also looked at that data from SACO and NACO, and they talk about huge increases in cargo exports, 84% from SACO and 25% from NACO. When we look at who is actually operating in these markets, I don't see Astral's airplanes when I look in the tarmac or look in the study, but obviously he's moving large volumes with 747s. But you tend to see in Nigeria, Allied Air, and in Ghana, Air Ghana. And what's the commonality? DHL is a key feature in this marketplace. So that tells the picture that DHL is a major player in the cargo sector in West Africa. But one of the not so visible players, but is also a key player, is the United Nations Humanitarian Airlift Unit, which we know often as the World Food Programme. And they carry over 32,000 passengers a month, 300 metric tons of cargo every month to 300 regular destinations, making them a key player. And their fleet is varied from the largest aircraft to the smallest airplanes to helicopters dropping at airports and dropping from the air. And so I call them the prolific player in the market. Okay? So we've described this market generally in West Africa is that during the period of high demand, which is your holidays, Easter, Christmas, etc., they also have high demands for customers' baggages. And so the trade-off is that they can't carry the cargo when they are required to carry the cargo. But then during the low seasons, there's really not that much justification for the carriage of cargo or the existence of regular cargo airlines in the market. Well, that's why Allied remains where it is, and DHL, Ghana, Air Ghana do what they do. But the challenge is we live in different times. We call it the COVID era, where the airplanes are empty and the airports are empty. So the passenger airlines themselves are looking and saying, whoa, okay, there's cargo business. The question is, how do you then take airplanes that are designed to carry people and use them to carry cargo? And so all kinds of ideas are out there. And so in some cases, some people are taking seats out. In the case of Korean Airlines, in the example in the middle, they're strapping the seats, the cargo to the seats, and it's in position of KLM, they're modifying boxes to do that. So people are approaching cargo from the need that they believe that exists, that comes from the fact that we don't have passengers to carry, and that the return to airplanes by passengers will take some while. So people are adapting and moving into Sanjay's usual comfort space. Of course, innovation will not sleep. So innovative companies are also creating solutions so that we can mix passengers and cargo without combi aircraft. And so they're making these nice boxes that allow airplanes to combine passengers and cargo, which is a challenge dealing with the needs of regulators that are saying, oh, we can't have cargo in passenger airplanes because they're not safe. Of course, when there's turbulence, Many of us have seen the horror picture where there's turbulence and the cargo shifts from the back to from the front to the back, and the airplane drops out of the sky. But of course, they say necessity is the mother of invention. So inventors are coming up with ways to achieve the balance with making these passenger airplanes adaptable to carrying cargo as well as people. So if in all of these challenges, which of course, I always see challenges as opportunities, and so do most entrepreneurs, is what do we do in this environment where we have challenges which have created opportunities? There's no question that we need to hire the right professionals to direct this new phase of our business. It's not just a matter of going out and taking equipment and making your cargo, passenger airplanes cargo. We need to have the markets as well. Okay, so do we have the structures in the airports to support this new drive? Have we increased access to land to farm these products? Is the logistics in place if I modify my airplane to get the goods from where they are in the hinterlands to the airports where the facilities are to load them on aircraft? Are there incentives for funding for the farmers and for infrastructure? And the tax, is government willing to provide the necessary tax reductions and subsidies required to grow this sector? Okay, are we creating the enabling environment? It's not just a matter of creating capacity in airplanes, okay? Are we enlightening farmers to the opportunities, one, as well as making them capable of producing the products that are required in the marketplace, as I showed in the earlier slides? Do we have the trade facilitation process in place? Okay, are we reducing rather than increasing inspection fees? Are we putting in place systems for speeding up paperwork? Have we put in place the proper private and public storage facilities? Are we reducing costs? Are we reducing the times? Okay, and are we ensuring that the product certifications are taking place at the farm, not at the point of delivery? Are we also creating the linkages for all of these parties? And with that, I end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for such a concise presentation. I really appreciate it. You just compressed everything in a very short time, which is quite fantastic. But I'd like to go to Sanjeev and ask, then come back to you. Sanjeev, you just seen Alex's presentation from the West African point of view. Could you liken this to the East African point of view as well as the challenges you have? Is it the same thing, or do we have more thriving market in? I think we have a more thriving market in East African air cargo market, but I want you to share your thoughts on that.
Yes, thank you very much. East Africa and West Africa are very different from each other. And just to give you an example, according to the ACI statistics for 2019, Nairobi was the fastest growing region in Africa in terms of cargo output, followed by Addis Ababa, Johannesburg, and Lagos. We are very lucky because we have a very strong perishable sector, which allows us to transport the equivalent of 5,000 tons of perishables to Europe every week. And we are a part of that perishable sector, which is something that we're very proud of, because in many situations, Kenya is actually feeding a very big part of Europe, not only with fruits and vegetables, but also with flowers. So when you have 5,000 tons of cargo going northbound, it actually gives you a lot of stability as an airline, because you know that the traffic is there. But there's also a lot of competition, by the way. We are the only African cargo airline who flies a freighter on this route. Yes, our national carrier flies it on the belly capacity. So when you look at the perishable sector in East Africa, our market share is only 10%. 90% of the perishables are carried on foreign carriers. So this is a fact. We need more African carriers to carry perishables from Africa, and we are also seeing that in this space you've got only two large cargo airlines. We've got Ethiopian Airlines, and you've also got Astral Aviation as well, who are in the perishable sector. So when we actually look at East Africa, it's very dynamic. There's only one problem with East Africa: we don't have any inbound cargo. So what we have to do is we have to fly from Nairobi into Europe, and then from Europe into West Africa, and then from West Africa to East Africa. So that is a little bit of our strategy. In Nigeria, we fly to Lagos 3 times a week. We fly also to Port Harcourt once a week. And our hub in West Africa during the COVID period has been Accra because of the quarantine restrictions, which have actually been a lot more easier for us to adapt to. So Nigeria is a very important market for us. We experienced a very significant disruption in our cargo getting back into operating our flights at a better load factor. So for sure, Africa is incomplete without the perishables from East Africa to Europe, and also the oil and gas and the mining cargo into West Africa.
Fantastic. So yeah, despite COVID-19, passenger closed borders, we've seen air cargo movements, with medicals and what have you during that period. In what way did the COVID-19 impact air cargo? We talked about safety protocols and health implications. Did it affect the market in any way? Since they are not human beings that are just carrying cargo, what impact did it have with the movement of air cargo this period?
Oh, Tony, it's a very good question. In 2020, we celebrated our 20th anniversary. And during the same time, we actually faced the biggest test and biggest challenge of our survival as a cargo airline. So February was a great month. We had a very big shipment of flowers for the Valentine's Day, which traditionally happens on the 14th. Then immediately after that, this is a time when we are supposed to be very busy. In March, we started losing a lot of our flower shipments. So we transport a lot of flowers into Europe, and we started losing very significant volumes, because during the shutdown in Europe, people did not want flowers. People wanted fresh fruits and vegetables. So what we did was we experienced a shift between flowers into vegetables, especially avocados. And we started getting into a situation where we were carrying less flowers from before, and we were carrying more fresh fruits and vegetables. So that is the first thing that actually happened, which was very positive. The second thing that actually happened was that we started also experiencing that there was very less cargo from Europe into West Africa, because the two biggest economies in Africa, which is Nigeria and South Africa, were actually under shutdown. And during shutdown, there's not so much cargo that is coming in. So we were really worried, because there was just less and less cargo that we were transporting. A lot of empty flights, a lot of half-empty flights. But what we started realizing is that the market started adapting to some of the challenges. And we started experiencing a very high demand for the transportation of PPEs, ventilators, and test kits. So we were very fortunate that we carried PPEs and a lot of COVID-related items to 32 countries in Africa. And this is a very big honor for us to transport PPEs. Most of the PPEs came from China into our Nairobi hub. And then from Nairobi, we actually transported it all over the region, including Lagos, by the way. We also had flights that we did also for PPEs. And it's a big honor to actually be of service. And it also made us prepare ourselves for what is going to come in 2021, which is the COVID vaccine. And we really believe that the vaccine is something that is going to test every airline's capabilities. And I really believe that, we have a very big challenge ahead of us. We have to prepare for the COVID vaccine, because what we will actually see with the COVID vaccine is a situation where you will have at least the vaccines going to every country in Africa to make sure that every person, every citizen of Africa has been vaccinated. And this is something which is going to take some time, and we already have the experience of Ebola in West Africa and also in the DRC. And we really believe that if we do not get our supply chain in order for the transportation of vaccines, we're going to have a very serious problem, and we're going to have a situation where our recovery from COVID is going to take very long, because the transportation of vaccines will actually test every airline in the world. And I believe in Africa, it will be no different, despite the fact that we have very poor infrastructure. So there are some great days ahead of us. We have a lot to do, but we have to make sure that we live up to the expectations of making sure that the vaccine is available in Africa, and every brother and sister in this great continent of ours has got access to the vaccine and comes out of this pandemic once and for all.
Thank you very much, Sanjeev. It might interest you to know, I'm sure you already know, that Nigeria opened for international operations on August the 29th. Does that sound like good news to your ears?
Absolutely, but do remember that Nigeria never closed for cargo.
Yeah, of course.
whereas passenger flights had actually stopped. We were still flying, although the flights were very limited, and we were doing more flights into multiple destinations. But I can also give you another example that during this time of COVID, we have not stopped flying for a single day, Tony. We have not rested enough. We have just been working. Our crew have been working. Very, very grateful to our crew and to our team for putting in the extra efforts to make sure that we are actually flying. And during this period of COVID, our network and our fleet literally doubled. And this actually shows that the COVID did not affect air cargo sector. On the contrary, the air cargo sector was the most dependable and reliable form of transport because that was the only thing that was not fractured. Every other form of supply chain, road, rails, shipping, was affected by COVID except for the air cargo industry.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sanjeev. Just to let our participants know that in the next few minutes to open up for questions to our speakers, in whatever area you want to ask questions, just let us know. I'll come back to Alex. Alex, your presentation really covered from challenges to opportunities and the whole cargo value chain. But I'd like you to just dig deep into what are the choices available to passenger numbers as per cargo for airlines at this time. There's a conversation in Nigeria at the moment, telling passenger airlines to look towards cargo, for sustainability's sake. And I don't think there's actually a particular formula for them to engage in this. And the airline seems a little bit, confused at the moment. I want you to throw some light on that. What are the choices available?
Well, like Sanjeev said, the opportunities come later, not right now. When we talk about distribution of vaccines, there will be an opportunity. But the fact remains that cargoes were moving around pre-COVID. The numbers didn't go up as significantly. The fact remains that airlines have to shrink their operations and find better ways to attract customers back into the air. The fact is that the cargo costs are prohibitive. People are not going to automatically just wake up and say, because now airlines want to carry cargo, they're going to give you the cargo. If you take the cost of moving goods in the pennies by road, as opposed to moving them by air domestically, it's not very attractive for shippers to bring their cargo to the airlines just because the airlines don't have any passengers to carry along. But then, of course, like Sanjeev has said, the opportunity will come in the future where we have the need to move medicines, vaccines, and things like that. And then airlines don't just go out and buy new airplanes. They have to adapt these airplanes to be able to carry this cargo back and forth. And the fact remains that, yes, you want to move away from the fact that you don't have passengers, but the cargo there doesn't really exist for you to do that.
So how about, airlines trying to, when the opportunity presents itself to reconfigure their aircrafts, to meet this need? What are your thoughts? Because at the moment, no Nigerian airline is thinking in that direction as we speak.
Well, I did present some models by which some airlines are looking at doing that, adapting the airplanes, taking seats out and substituting, turning airplanes into combi. You have to do that within the regulatory framework, and the regulators are not quite friendly to the idea of putting people and cargo together on the airplanes. And then you also don't go out and buy airplanes because you want to carry vaccines and medicines for a few months during that operation. One has to look again at your overall business strategy. You can't run away from it. You have to have a strategy going into this. Your strategy is to carry passengers. We haven't right-sized for that operation, and so the numbers are diminishing. We're already out of scope. So really, the first thing you have to do is go back and look at the overall business strategy. Where do you want to go from 2021 going forward? What do you understand as to being the challenges or the opportunities of the marketplace? There's no one formula for everybody. Everyone has to go back to the drawing board and look at their overall strategy and come up with a new one.
You made an interesting point about, you carrying cargo that was not meant for you, but your handlers somehow put cargo into your aircraft. So I want to ask, what do you think about the outsourcing of cargo to other logistic companies as against the airline running its own cargo, department holistically, so that, what you encounter wouldn't happen, because this is something that happens all the time. I have a situation, an incident where a pilot took off and found out that it seems the aircraft was heavier than what was given him on his manifest, and he had to do a turnaround, and they found out that what was loaded was more than what was actually put on the manifest. What are your thoughts about outsourcing?
Well, there are two issues here to outsourcing. Do you outsource the sales and marketing of your cargo, or do you outsource the carrying of your cargo? At the same time, anybody that's been in this cargo business knows you need tight supervision of what gets loaded onto the airplane, not just for weight. We can recall that the car crash in Benin many years ago was the result of an overloaded aircraft where people ride 6 kilos and they load 100 kilos onto the airplane. That's a major challenge. Every airline in this business needs to supervise what gets loaded on the aircraft. In the situation I'm talking about, I was on the tarmac. When I take cargo out of, I was not in Nigeria at the time, I was walking out of Benin, and we were picking up cargo from Lagos. And I came because I personally come to supervise what gets loaded onto the airplane. I was sitting on the tarmac. I saw the cargo loaded. I assumed it was what my passengers had paid for until the flight arrived in Kinshasa, only to discover that the cargo on board was cargo substituted by my handling company for the one that wasn't paid for. That's not a problem. I only made the passengers pay twice what they would have paid by doing it legitimately. So you don't outsource supervision of your operation. You may outsource the marketing. You may outsource the presence in the marketplace to others. I'm sure that Sanjay doesn't come and put Sanjeev doesn't come and put his personnel in every airport in the 22 or more destinations he does. He handles that to other parties, but he supervises the loading, he supervises the weighing, he supervises the safety elements of that operation. So there are things you can outsource, and there are certainly things you cannot outsource in this market, given the way we operate.
Thank you very much. There's a question. I mean, this is not related to cargo, but I just need you to answer to it. What's your relationship with Association of Aircraft and Engineers Pilot Association of Nigeria? I mean, your association of IOPA and NAPI.
I think I tackled that head on. The National Association of Airline Pilots and Association is a Nigerian association of pilots and association of Nigerian engineers. AOPA is an affiliate of an international organization. Our focus is small. If you look at NAPI, it's more focused on the commercial sector of the business, whereas AOPA is focused on the general aviation sector of the business. So while pilots join us, aircraft owners join us, they join an international association, which is a global association, the largest aircraft association, as well as largest pilots association in the world. So we are not at opposite sides of the spectrum. For example, we have the West African Flying Club, and so we affiliate ourselves with that because the members of the West African Flying Club can join as AOPA, just like NAPIA members can join AOPA. But what we focus is more of legislation and supporting the general aviation sector.
Thank you very much. Sanjeev, I would like to come to you. You just celebrated 20 years of air cargo business, and 2020 tested your resolve on your business. So I'd like to ask you, what is the future for air cargo post-COVID-19?
That's a good question, Tony, but I believe that it's going to get a little bit tough because of the slowdown of world trade. We've already been reminded by the World Bank that we are in the worst recession since the Second World War. And every economy, every region at the moment is actually feeling the brunt of COVID. Trade volumes are low. The outlook is not very good for this year for global trade. And since we are a part of the global trade supply chain, we're expecting that the cargo industry is also going to go through very difficult times. And I believe that as far as the recovery is concerned, the air cargo industry will recover much quicker compared to the passenger industry. According to IATA, according to AFRA, the passenger sector will recover much later. And I believe 2024 was what I recall from seeing the press release. But in the case of the air cargo sector and players in the air cargo industry, we expect that our recovery will be in the second half of 2021. So we're expecting a quicker recovery. And I also believe that the transportation of vaccines will be an opportunity for the air cargo industry, provided that they have the ability to handle the shipment of vaccines. It's a very specialized commodity. It requires a certain type of handling. It requires temperature control. And it also requires a situation where you have to be very proactive with your flights. So it's going to be a situation where we will actually experience a lot of difficulties, but moving forward, I'm actually an optimist by nature, and I believe that we will come out of this. We will have better days ahead of us, and there is a silver lining in the clouds above Africa.
Thank you very much. There was a question from Rajiv. He was asking if air cargo aircraft need to delivery have to be painted according to the airline. Do you paint your livery to according to the cargo airline, or you can just use aircraft without any kind of livery on them?
Okay, I'm not sure whether I heard that correctly, but is it something that you're talking about relating to the livery of the aircraft?
No, livery, painting, like Astra Aviation on the aircraft, the livery. Can you use just any aircraft without any livery on it? I think it's a question from one of them.
Okay, that's a very good question. Very good question. Tony, I beg your pardon. Sorry, do we have Rajesh on the line?
Come again?
Hello.
Yes, hello.
How are you? Okay.
Yes, fine, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Oh.
Rajesh, sorry. Please ask your question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, just reference obviously the aircraft themselves. With the carriers, like obviously yours has Astral on the side. Yeah. Sorry, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, just reference like with the aircrafts of the carriers are doing. Would they need a livery branding on the side, or is that they could fly white, or do you think that's important?
For us, the branding of our aircraft is very important. We spend a lot of money in it because it's our billboard. And I feel very proud when I receive photographs from friends who have seen it in other airports in Africa. And even if you are in Lagos, if you're in Port Harcourt, you're in Abuja, you're in Accra, Libreville, you'll actually see our aircrafts very frequently, and you can notice it even if you're blind. So the livery is very important. There are many airlines today who do not paint their aircrafts. They do not put any livery. I think it's a matter of choice for us. It's very important. It's actually our billboard, and we do a lot of marketing through our aircrafts. And we have an Instagram page where we post our aircrafts on the internet, and it just looks a lot better when it's painted with your branding, because it actually allows you to be able to promote and market your fleet, which stands out at any given airport, at any given time, at any airport.
Yeah, no, I see yours has got like the blue tail with a picture of the Falcon and red apron. Yeah. Do you plan to have any more aircraft like with livery on, or do you need any requirements of that type? Do you see that?
Yes, in September, we're taking delivery of our first Boeing 767-200 freighter, which has a capacity of 45 tons, about 450 cbm. And next year, we're actually taking delivery of another 2 more 767s. Now, we're coming out with a brand new livery for our 767, which is something that we're going to be revealing very, very soon. And this is something we take a lot of pride in, because this is our trademark. This is something that we look forward to. But also what we will also be doing is to make sure that we also display our 20th anniversary logo on all of our aircrafts. This is also something very important. And yes, most of our aircrafts have similar livery. We actually do them in Kenya, but in the case of the 767, it'll be painted in United States. So we're looking forward to it, and it's going to be very nice and different.
Okay. The reason why I ask, we have a plant in Cape Town in South Africa, right. So we can supply the decal as in delivery, as in a sticker decal, which goes on quite quickly.
Right.
You were talking about the 20th anniversary sticker. I mean, if you were interested, something we could supply to you.
Sure, definitely. We'll please reach out to me offline, and we'll be quite happy to take you up.
Okay.
Fantastic. Sanjeev, there's another question from Comrade Olaika is asking that Kenya is known as the biggest exporter of flowers to Europe. What can Nigeria be noted for? Should we concentrate more on cargo, or in which area can Nigeria be relevant in cargo transportation?
That's a very good question. Nigeria has a lot of agricultural resources which are not being tapped, and it's not being optimized. And I remember I was in Abuja about 3 years ago speaking on a very similar IATA event, where I actually felt that Nigeria needs to develop its agricultural industry. Nigeria should not only be able to feed its people, but also it should be able to feed Europe. And this is something that is very important. There's a lot of land. There's more investments which is required in the agricultural sector. But what is very important is infrastructure. You need to have infrastructure to make sure that the produce from the farms can reach the airports on time, and we're looking at a very limited time frame when you look at the transportation of perishables. Our flowers make it to the airport in about an hour and a half. Fruits and vegetables are grown in different parts of Kenya, but our road infrastructure, although it's not as great as what we have in South Africa, it's still very good for the transportation. So I think two things are very important: develop your agricultural resources, number one, and number two, build the supporting infrastructure around it so that primary and secondary airports in Nigeria can also be able to export perishables. And when I talk about meat, and I really believe that Nigeria has the potential with a population of almost 200 million people, in addition to the West African population, I really believe that it's very necessary to actually develop the agricultural sector to its full potential.
Thank you very much. At this moment, I'm just going to put Cindy Foster on the spotlight. Cindy runs Avero, the company that is in charge of providing pipeline of investments for the aviation value chain. I just want to ask her what are her thoughts as regards air cargo and investments in Africa. Cindy?
Hi, Tony. Sorry, I wasn't expecting to be called. I was just responding to emails. But yes, cargo is one of the things taking me by surprise. Cargo is definitely one of the things that pops up a lot. But I totally agree with Alex when he says that cargo as an operation can't exist in a vacuum. You need to have goods that you are exporting. Particularly the export is the issue. As Sanjeev mentioned, it's quite common that cargo operations will come into Nigeria full of goods and leave empty. And Nigeria particularly needs to look at what it wants to export. The government needs to decide what type of economy it wants the country to be and put support where is needed to build the sectors which have got the capacity to export to both Africa and externally. There's no reason why some of this massive land of Nigeria couldn't be used to grow beautiful flowers that people would want elsewhere. The quality of the agricultural products needs working on. It really just needs to identify what it needs to be so that the effort can be put to create the opportunity, because it doesn't yet exist. There is, however, an internal demand for cargo which is not being met. So it's one of the stats that we all know: 60% of agricultural produce is destroyed before it reaches its destination. And that's a fact. It comes from the north down to the south, and it just is damaged and spoilt along the route. But people are choosing to continue to do that rather than send it by air. Why? That needs to be really understood. Is it the cost? Is it the hands out at the airport, basically taking away your profit before you've even sold anything? There are structural problems, which mean that things which naturally could be moved by air are continuing to be moved on these poor, insecure, I don't even want to call them roads, but you know what I mean. So we've got local issues, and we've got a continental problem because cargo can't operate in a vacuum. If Nigeria was shipping products to other parts of Africa, we would have a need for cargo. If Nigeria was shipping to other parts of South America, North America, and Europe, we would have a cargo industry. What is it that they're going to ship? How are they going to ship it? Agriculture needs cold chill distribution and storage. So where is that in Nigeria? So there are structural issues that need to be sorted out before we can talk about the passenger aircraft transporting cargo. What cargo? That's my point.
Thank you very much, Cindy. We're just going to the home stretch now. I'd like to come to Alex to ask the final question and what it is our parting shots. So Hilary Anyang says, what's the impact of the COVID economy on FX issues on aircraft acquisition and maintenance?
Well, the airline business is an interesting business because we earn most of our revenues in Naira, pay for most of our services in dollars. The CBN is not always regular in providing the dollars, and then when we look at the exchange rate, it hits. So if you have a 20% increase in cost, you've kept, I predicted that when we reopen the airports for domestic operations, airfares are likely to go up. They didn't. They stayed about the same. The airlines are being aggressive in trying to attract customers. So you have meanwhile, the dollars moved from 380 to 470. So there are significant challenges. If you look at the forward trading numbers for the Naira, we have a rate of about 580 Naira to $1. So fares have not gone up, they'll go up. Eventually, that doesn't increase our capacity to get the dollars required to pay for these offshore services. So we need local investment in maintenance. We need local investment in training to sustain this industry as we go forward. So for the cargo sector, as Sanjeev has spoken, recovery will be faster. For the passenger sector, we're looking at recovery in 1 to 2 years. Without those revenues coming in and costs going higher, the future indeed is looking very, very, very bleak.
Thank you very much. Let's have your parting shots.
For me?
Yes, please.
Things are not looking very good, but we'll adapt as an industry. People are saying the airplanes were oversized before COVID. They become even more oversized during COVID. But what we have to do as an industry is adapt. There are ideas to remain in business, and airlines need to figure that out. Make a phone call to Cindy. She'll probably give you some ideas for survival. So my parting shot is, industry players, you need to bring in experts' ideas now to recover. Without that, you're right. We're looking at a one-way direction to death. That's really what I have to say. Get in touch with the experts.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sanjeev, can we have your parting shots?
Thank you, Tony. Again, I believe it's very important to stay safe, keep well. I believe that we need to, during this period of COVID, we need to have a very positive mindset. We have to always look at the best case scenario rather than the worst case scenario. And at the same time, also look at taking up a robust and a resilient strategy. And I believe this is very important when we are going forward. But do remember one thing, we are going to come out of this. We need to come out of this stronger than before COVID. And we've gone through so many challenges as a continent. We've actually had a lot of situations when we actually had lost hope in humanity and in mankind. And I believe the most important thing for us is to maintain solidarity as a continent and to actually make sure that we are strong as we take on this invisible enemy, and we actually come out even stronger. So my wish is for everybody to look after themselves, keep strong, keep safe, and to actually make sure that we continue to talk to each other and we continue to participate in webinars like this where we can share and provide knowledge. I've also learned a lot today, Tony, in addition to sharing what we have actually been able to experience in the last 20 years and during this COVID. And I really believe that during this time, the best thing that we can really do is to listen to each other and actually find that power of solidarity moving forward. And I'm quite sure that there will be better days ahead of us. And I think the most important thing is to stay safe.
Thank you very much, Sanjeev. We've tried as much as possible to keep the webinar to 1 hour because of your tight schedules, both Alex and you as well. You've got some other things to do. But I'll just add is that I've had a lot of conversations around in the aviation industry, people saying, the operators and the stakeholders in Africa should align with experts, abroad to be able to come up with formulas on how to navigate. But I dare say that Africa has got all it needs, to move forward post COVID-19. We have all the experts, just like Alex has said, we have all the experts, we have the people that know the technical know-how. We just need to link up, with these people and, kind of have a holistic approach to brand Africa, and I think it will be better off for Africa. On that note, I want to thank everybody for coming on this webinar. I hope that when next to come up with another topical issue, will be at hand to, to join us. Thank you very much to Alex and Sanjeev. I thank you very much sincerely for making this webinar. Thank you very much, and I wish everybody all the best. Be safe and be good. Thank you very much.